Most people think they quit because they're weak. That's not true. They quit because their brain is trying to protect them. Your mind is wired for survival, not success. When pain repeats, when effort doesn't bring results, your brain sends one message. Stop. This is dangerous. And the moment you listen, you call it giving up. But psychology calls it something else. Learned helplessness. When the brain experiences failure without control, it starts conserving energy. Not because you can't continue, but because it believes continuing is pointless. Resilience is the ability to override that false signal. Resilience is not motivation. Motivation fades fast. Resilience is a decision made after motivation dies. It's the moment when nothing excites you, nothing reassures you, and you still move. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every resilient person you admire has a nervous system that learned to sit with discomfort longer than others. They didn't feel braver. They trained their brain to stop panicking when things got hard. Pain doesn't break people. Meaningless pain does. When you attach meaning to struggle, the brain releases endurance chemicals. Dopamine for progress, cortisol for focus, oxytocin for connection to purpose. That's why resilient people don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" They ask, "What is this preparing me for?" Giving up feels like relief, and that's why it's dangerous. Relief teaches your brain that quitting works. Resilience teaches your brain that you are in control. Every time you continue when quitting feels easier, you're not just pushing forward. You're rewiring your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. Resilience is built in small, invisible moments. Getting up when no one claps. Trying again when the result is the same. Staying disciplined when the outcome is uncertain. This is where most people lose. Not because it's impossible, but because it's silent. No applause, no guarantee, just you and the choice. And here's the final truth. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your resilience. So when your mind tells you to stop, remember, it's not the voice of truth. It's the voice of comfort. And comfort has never built anything worth becoming. If you're still here, it's because something in you recognized the truth. Because the moment you stop quitting on the inside, the outside starts to change. But here's what part one didn't say out loud. Resilience is not heroic. It's lonely. Your brain hates uncertainty more than pain. Pain at least has a shape. Uncertainty feels like death to the nervous system. That's why most people don't quit at rock bottom. They quit in the middle, not when they're broken, but when they're tired of not knowing if it will work. This is where resilience becomes a psychological war. Your mind starts negotiating. Take a break. Lower the goal. Be realistic. Those aren't rational thoughts. They're escape routes dressed as wisdom. Resilient people don't silence these thoughts. They hear them and move anyway. Because resilience is the skill of acting without emotional permission. The brain waits for certainty before committing effort. Resilience trains the opposite response. Effort first, certainty later. This is why consistency beats talent. Talent relies on feeling capable. Resilience relies on showing up while feeling incapable. Every setback does one of two things. It teaches your brain that effort is useless, or it teaches your brain that effort is non-negotiable. That lesson is repeated daily. The strongest people aren't fearless. They've simply failed so many times that fear lost its authority. Their nervous system learned a new rule. I survived this. And once your body believes you survived discomfort, you stop asking for permission to move forward. This is where identity shifts. You stop chasing outcomes. You stop counting wins. You stop waiting for proof. You become process loyal, not because it feels good, but because quitting no longer fits who you are. Resilience is when walking away would hurt your self-respect more than staying. That's the real power. Not willpower, not discipline, self-trust. And the dangerous part, once you build this, there is no going back, because the version of you that endured silently will never respect the version that quits loudly. So if things still feel heavy, if the results are still missing, if no one sees the effort you're putting in, good. That's the exact pressure resilience is born from. Part one taught you quitting feels natural. Part two reveals the truth. Never giving up isn't about strength. It's about refusing to betray yourself. By now, something has shifted, not in your life, in the way you see yourself inside it. This is where resilience stops being an action and becomes ascendered. Because the most dangerous moment is not failure. It's when quitting no longer scares you. When walking away feels mature, logical, even healthy. That's when resilience is tested at its deepest level. Your brain will say, you've done enough. You proved your point. You can start again somewhere else. But resilience isn't about starting over. It's about staying when the ego gets tired of explaining why. This is the stage where no one is watching. No enemy, no crisis, just long, quiet resistance. And this is where identity is sealed. Psychology shows that repeated behavior under stress becomes self-concept. Not what you say you are, but what you know when relief is available, when quitting is easy, and you don't take it. The brain records a permanent message. I am not someone who exits under pressure. From that moment on, resilience stops requiring effort. It becomes automatic, not because it's easier, but because the alternative feels wrong. You don't push yourself anymore. You protect who you are. This is why resilient people look calm. They aren't fighting themselves. They've already decided the world may still resist you, progress may still be slow, the outcome may still be uncertain, but the internal debate is over, and once the debate ends, energy stops leaking, no more mental bargaining, no more emotional back and forth, no more waiting to feel ready. You move because stopping would fracture your self-respect. This is the quiet power people mistake for confidence. Not confidence, it's alignment. Your actions match your identity. And here's the final truth, the one most people never reach. Resilience doesn't guarantee success. It guarantees self-integrity. You can lose the outcome and still win yourself. And the person who doesn't abandon themselves is almost impossible to defeat long-term, because even when they fall forward. So if you're still standing in something unfinished, still showing up without certainty, still resisting the exit, you've already crossed the line, not into victory, into permanence. You are no longer someone who tries. You are someone who doesn't leave, and that is the real power behind never giving up. There comes a phase almost no one talks about, not the beginning, where excitement carries you, not the struggle, where pain sharpens you, but the long stretch after identity is formed, when resilience no longer feels dramatic. This is the endurance phase. This is where people who never give up quietly disappear from attention because nothing about this stage looks impressive. Your life doesn't suddenly explode into success. Your problems don't vanish. The world doesn't reward you for consistency. And this is where resilience reveals its final test. Because the human brain craves novelty and validation, resilience offers neither. Instead, it offers repetition. The same work, the same resistance, the same unanswered effort. Day after day, psychologically, this is brutal. The brain begins to ask a more dangerous question than, should I quit? It asks, what if this is all there is? Not failure, meaninglessness. This is where many strong people finally break, not because they can't endure pain, but because they can't endure the idea that their endurance might go unnoticed. But here's the truth that separates the unbreakable. Resilience is not sustained by hope of reward. It is sustained by respect for self. At this stage, you are no longer chasing results. You are guarding a principle. You continue not because you expect success tomorrow, but because quitting would violate the standard you set when no one was watching. This is why resilience matures into calm. There is no urgency, no desperation, no emotional chaos, just quiet execution. Your nervous system adapts to pressure the way lungs adapt to altitude. What once felt unbearable now feels familiar, not easy, familiar. And familiarity removes fear. You stop asking, how much longer can I do this? And start asking, how deep can I go without losing myself? This is where resilience becomes wisdom. You learn when to push and when to endure. You learn the difference between impatience and intuition, between rest and escape, between strategy and surrender. Resilient people are not stubborn. They err precise. They don't need to prove anything anymore. They don't need permission. They don't need applause. Their confidence doesn't come from belief in success. It comes from certainty in character. And here's the paradox few understand. The moment you stop needing the outcome, is often when the outcome starts moving towards you, because your energy is no longer split between effort and doubt. Your mind is no longer negotiating exits. Your emotions are no longer draining your focus. Everything aligns behind one quiet decision. I stay, not forever, not blindly, but faithfully to the process you chose consciously. This is why resilience outlasts talent, outlives motivation, outperforms luck, because the world changes faster than skill, but character compounds, and when opportunity finally arrives, not loudly, not dramatically, it finds you already prepared, not excited, not surprised, ready. That's the final evolution of resilience, not force, not fire, but depth, the ability to remain whole, inside unfinished stories. And if you've reached this stage where nothing feels urgent, nothing feels dramatic, yet you continue, you're no longer building success. You're building someone who cannot be replaced by circumstance. And that is why never giving up eventually stops being a decision and becomes your nature.